my parents toasted. Some kids make you proud, others just take up space. My sister smirked. I said calmly, I have my own place 55 miles away, rent, utilities, insurance. From now on, that's your problem. When I saw Amanda at the doorstep of my house, my first thought was, she's aged. My second thought was, she's not going to leave. What do you want, you parasite? She shouted, blocking my way. I'll call the police. I looked at her disheveled hair, her old yoga pants, her face, which once seemed so pretty but now just looked tired and angry. Call them if you can, I replied calmly and moved forward. She didn't back down. We stood there for a few seconds, me on the porch, her in the doorway, until I walked around her and simply went inside. My living room was filled with strangers. A woman in her 60s was sitting on the sofa with a magazine in her hands. A man of about the same age was standing by the window with a cup of coffee. Dexter, Amanda's husband, was sitting at the dining table, staring at his laptop screen. These are Dexter's parents, Amanda said loudly behind me. Horace and Patricia. They live here with us. I slowly scanned the room. On the shelves where I planned to put books were their things. Some figurines, photo frames. On the coffee table were 3 bottles of whiskey, clearly not cheap. Next to the sofa was a Michael Kors bag, new with purchases folded inside. On the floor were boxes from a new coffee maker. Horace? Patricia. I nodded to them. Nice to meet you. This is my house. Patricia put down her magazine. She was a plump woman with neat hair and pearl earrings. She looked like someone who was used to comfort and had no intention of giving it up. Sweetheart, we understand your outrage, she began in a soft, insinuating voice. But the situation is so complicated. Amanda said you let them live here for a while. Families should support each other. I let her live here for 3 months, I said, 6 months ago. The deadline passed 3 months ago. Horatio put his mug on the windowsill. He was tall, with gray hair and the face of a former athlete who had long since stopped taking care of himself. He was wearing a bathrobe. In my house, he wore a bathrobe. Olivia, let's not escalate the conflict, he said conciliatorily. Dexter and Amanda are going through a difficult time. We're all here, temporarily, another month or 2, and the situation will be resolved. I told Amanda I'd come at the beginning of September. We had an agreement. We didn't make it, Amanda cut me off. Do you think it's easy for us? You have your own apartment in the city. It costs you nothing to give us a little more time. I looked at her, my younger sister. We used to be close. I remembered how she used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, how we built forts out of blankets, how I helped her with her homework, how she sat on the floor of my room and drew while I studied for exams. That ended when she turned 13. I was in my senior year of high school, and my teachers praised me for my grades, for my participation in the student council, for getting into college with a partial scholarship. Amanda started to change. At first, it was little things. She would accidentally spill coffee on my notebooks, hide my phone when I was in a hurry, forget to pass on important messages from teachers. Then there were rumors at school that I had slept with the history teacher for a grade. The lies spread quickly. I had to call my parents to the principal's office several times to explain. My parents believed me, but the rumors remained. Then there was money missing from my mother's wallet, found in my room. A broken vase that I supposedly knocked over. My dad's scratched car. Also my fault, even though I didn't even have a driver's license. I tried to talk to my parents, but Amanda was so talented at lying with tears and a trembling voice that it was easier for them to believe her. Or to pretend to believe her. When I went to college, we almost stopped communicating. I took out loans, worked as a freelancer, drawing maps for travel companies, navigation apps, educational publications, anything I could find. I studied landscape design because I loved plants and space. I slept 4 hours a day. I ate instant noodles and tried not to think about how much debt I owed. After graduation, I got lucky. I got a job at a company that did landscaping for commercial properties, office centers, hotels, shopping malls. The money was good. I paid off my loans in 5 years. I helped my parents too. Meanwhile, Amanda enrolled in college to study accounting, but dropped out after a year. It's boring, she said. Her parents continued to pay her loan because she had to finish something. Then she met Dexter. He seemed like a good choice to them. His own business, a car, doesn't drink, doesn't yell. Amanda married him at 20. A year later, her parents asked her to help out a little with her college loan. They didn't ask for much, $200 a month, just to ease the burden. Dexter came to their house and told them to their faces that they were beggars trying to live off their children, that Amanda didn't need a family that only sucked money out of her. He forbade her to talk to them. She listened. I hadn't seen her in 4 years, until she called me 6 months ago, crying into the phone. "Olivia, we're in terrible trouble," she said then. "Dexter invested in cryptocurrency on the advice of a business coach he knows, and everything is gone, all our savings. The bank took our house. We need somewhere to live, at least for a while. Please. I have no one else to turn to." I had just bought a mountain cabin, small but cozy, on the outskirts of town. I dreamed of coming there on weekends, reading books on the terrace, looking at the mountains, just being alone with myself. I saved up for it for 10 years, but Amanda was my sister. I remembered the little girl who used to crawl under my blanket. I said, 3 months, until spring, at most. Then I'll need the house. Spring passed. Summer passed. I called Amanda in mid-August and told her I was taking a vacation in early September and coming to the cottage. She replied curtly, "Couldn't you give us a little more time?" I said, "No, we had an agreement." She hung up. I sent her a message. "You have 3 days from the moment I arrive. If you don't leave, I'll call the police." She didn't respond, and here I am, in my own house, with 4 strangers looking at me as if I had done something wrong. "Amanda, you promised," I said quietly. "You promised to leave." "We can't." She crossed her arms over her chest. "We have no other choice." "You're my sister. You can't throw us out on the street. You had 6 months to find a solution." "You have an apartment," she exclaimed. "It costs you nothing to let us live here a little longer. You've always been selfish. You've always thought only of yourself." Horace put his hand on Amanda's shoulder. "Girls, let's calm down," he said in the conciliatory tone of someone who was used to resolving conflicts. "We're all adults here. We can work this out like civilized people." I looked at him, then at Patricia, who nodded with the look of an understanding matron, then at Dexter, who still hadn't looked up. He just sat there staring at the screen as if I weren't there. "You have 3 days, I said. "I'm staying at a hotel in town. If you don't leave voluntarily in 3 days, I'll call the police and they'll help you pack." "Just try it," Amanda hissed. "I can call my lawyer, too." "You don't have a lawyer," I said wearily. I turned and left the house. My hands were shaking as I opened the car door. I got behind the wheel, started the engine, and drove down the path to the road. In the rearview mirror, I could see Amanda standing on the porch watching me drive away. At the first traffic light in town, I stopped and took out my phone. I opened the browser. I scrolled through the list. I clicked on the first number. I wasn't going to leave things as they were. "Cascade Renovations. How can I help you?" The Cascade Renovations office was small. 2 desks, a display stand with samples of tile and flooring, the smell of coffee and wood. A man in his 50s, with a graying beard and thin-rimmed glasses, sat at one of the desks. "Terrence Bill," he said, standing up. "Did you call about urgent repairs?" "Olivia Kendrick." I shook his hand. "Yes, I need my cottage renovated. As soon as possible." Terrence pointed to a chair across from him and sat down. "Tell me more. What exactly needs to be done?" I thought about how much to tell him. Then I decided that the truth was the simplest option There are people living in the cottage right now who I let in for a limited time, I said slowly. That time expired 3 months ago. They refuse to leave. I need to do some renovations that will make it impossible for them to live there while the work is being done. Terrence took off his glasses and wiped them with the edge of his shirt. His face took on the expression of someone who had heard stories like this before. I see, he said in a neutral tone. Is it your property? Do you have the documents? Yes, I have the documents with me, I said, placing a folder on the table. The title deed, tax receipts, everything. He looked through the papers and nodded. Okay, what exactly do you want to renovate? Can the porch be dismantled? It's old, and I was planning to replace it anyway. I want something more modern. Yes, we can. It will take a few days. What else? Redesign the kitchen. Move the sink. Change the layout of the cabinets. Replace the roof. There are a few problem areas where it leaks when it rains. Anything that will make life there uncomfortable for the next few weeks. Terrence nodded slowly, writing something down in his notebook. I won't ask for details about your situation, he said, looking up. I signed the contract and made a prepayment, half of the amount. Do you need to be there the day after tomorrow? Terrence asked. Yes, I will. Then see you at 9. As I left the office, the sun was already setting behind the mountains. The sky was pink and orange, and the air was cool. I stopped by my car and looked at the mountains in the distance. They seemed calm, indifferent to human problems. I wanted to be the same. Indifferent, unmoved. The phone rang at 9 in the evening. An unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, it rang again. I rejected the call. I answered the third call because I knew Amanda wouldn't give up. What? I said briefly. You wouldn't dare do that, Amanda shouted so loudly that I moved the phone away from my ear. We have nowhere to go. You have your own apartment in the city. It costs you nothing to leave us here. You had 6 months to find an alternative, I replied wearily. I warned you back in August that I needed a vacation home. You had time. Vacation? She laughed sharply, hysterically. You're throwing us out on the street for your own vacation, so you can sit on the terrace with a book. I'm throwing you out because you broke the agreement, I said, trying to speak calmly. I gave you a roof over your head when you asked for it. You promised 3 months. 6 have passed. You've always been a selfish bitch, Amanda exclaimed, and there was real hatred in her voice. You always put yourself first. You always thought only of yourself. Mom and Dad were right to love me more. Something inside me shuddered, not from pain, but from surprise. Did she really believe what she was saying, or was she just trying to hurt me more? If they loved you so much, why didn't you ask them for help? I asked quietly. Why didn't you call them when your problems started? Silence. All I could hear was her heavy breathing. You know why, Amanda finally said, more quietly, almost in a whisper. Because you hurt them? Because Dexter called them beggars and you let him do it? Because you chose his money over your family? Just give us another month, Olivia. Her voice trembled. 1 month? We'll figure something out. Dexter will find a job. No, I interrupted. No, Amanda, enough. I hung up and blocked the number. My hands were shaking. I sat on the bed in my hotel room and stared at the ceiling for a long time, trying to calm my breathing. I spent that evening remembering the day I first saw the house. It was exactly a year ago in October. I had come to Cedar Valley to look at several properties, and the last one was this one. A small wooden house on a mountainside, with a terrace and large panoramic windows overlooking the valley. The owner, an old man named Waylon Carter, met me at the gate. I built it myself 30 years ago, he said, showing me inside. My wife wanted a place where she could get away from the world. She loved the mountains. She died 5 years ago of cancer. Now I don't need it. Too many memories. I stood on that terrace, looked at the mountains, the forests below, the small lake in the distance, and felt that this was my place. I had been saving up for something like this for 10 years. I lived modestly in a small one-room apartment, denying myself travel and expensive things. Every month I put aside a third of my salary, and I could afford it. And now Amanda lived there, with a husband who lost their money on cryptocurrency, and with his parents who drank my whiskey and acted like it was their home. I remembered another incident with Amanda. It was about 6 years ago, when she was still in college. She asked to borrow my laptop. "Just for one night," she said on the phone. "Mine broke, and I have to turn in an important assignment. Olivia, please." I gave it to her because I was the older sister and thought I should help. A month later, when I finally got up the nerve to ask where my laptop was, she brought it back with a broken screen and a broken keyboard. "It's your own fault for buying such a fragile one," she said, placing it on the table by my door. I didn't sleep most of the night. Part of me felt guilty. I was throwing my own sister out on the street. Part of me felt something like triumph. I had finally set a boundary. Part of me was just tired of the whole situation. The morning after tomorrow, I arrived at the cottage at 8:30. The sky was clear, the air fresh and cold. The Cascade Renovations truck pulled up at exactly 9 a.m. 6 men got out of the cab, all in work clothes, hard hats, and carrying tools. They began unloading equipment, saws, hammers, ladders. Terrence approached me. "Ready?" he asked. "Yes," I replied, though my heart was pounding. He walked up to the door and knocked loudly. Dexter opened it almost immediately, sleepy, wearing the same sweatpants he had on the day before yesterday with stubble on his face. "Good morning," Terrence said politely but firmly. "I'm the foreman. We're starting renovation work on this house. You will need to vacate the premises for the duration of the work." Dexter stared at him, then looked at me. "What? What work? What are you talking about?" "Demolition of the porch, roof reconstruction, and kitchen remodeling," Terrence explained. "The owner of the house hired us. The work starts now." "You can't just come in and—" "We can," I said, stepping closer. "This is my house, Dexter. I warned you. You had 3 days." Amanda ran out of the house. She was wearing an old nightgown, her hair was tousled, and her face was red. "What's going on here?" she shouted. "They say they're going to start renovating. Right now." Dexter spread his arms. "I told you," I said calmly, though inside I was trembling. 3 days. They ended yesterday. Patricia appeared in the doorway in her bathrobe, her face pale without makeup. Behind her was Horatio, also in a bathrobe. "Olivia, dear, it's impossible," Patricia began in a sly voice. "We just didn't have time to find a place. Give us at least a week. What does it cost you?" "No," I replied curtly. "It's illegal," Horace exclaimed, stepping out onto the porch. "You have no right to kick people out. We're calling the police right now." Terrence took his phone out of his pocket. "Would you like me to call the sheriff myself?" he asked calmly. "So that everything is official? Or you can pack your things quietly and leave without a fuss?" Amanda grabbed her phone. "I'll call myself," she shouted. "We'll see who's acting illegally here." She dialed 911. She spoke loudly, hysterically about illegal eviction, threats, and being forced to leave without warning. The workers stood by the truck and exchanged glances. 20 minutes later, a white sheriff's car with blue stripes pulled up. A man of about 45 got out, tall, thin, with the tired face of someone who had seen too much human stupidity. "Who owns this house?" he asked, approaching us. "I do," I said, and took out a folder with documents. "Olivia Kendrick." He studied them carefully, flipping through the pages, checking the seals. Then he looked at Amanda. "And who are you?" "I'm her sister," Amanda said, wrapping her arms around herself. "She let us live here. And now she's kicking us out." "Do you have a lease? Anything in writing?" Amanda remained silent, staring at the ground. "I do," I said, and showed him the printed correspondence from email and messenger. "We agreed on 3 months. The term expired in June. I warned her that I would be coming in September." The sheriff read the messages carefully and nodded several times. Then he looked at Amanda. "Ma'am, he said in an official tone. "You must leave this premises. This is private property, and you are here without the owner's permission. If you refuse to leave voluntarily, it will be considered unlawful occupation of someone else's property, and I will be forced to take appropriate measures." "But we have nowhere to go," Patricia cried, stepping out onto the porch. "There are 3 adults, and—" "That's not my problem, ma'am," said the sheriff wearily. "The law is the law. You have 1 hour to pack your things and leave. I'll wait here to make sure everything goes peacefully." The next hour was chaotic. Patricia cried packing suitcases, constantly forgetting something and returning. Horace shouted about injustice, about how the world had become cruel, that we would regret our actions. Dexter silently packed things into boxes, his face stony. Amanda rushed around the house, grabbing clothes, dishes, books, and throwing them into bags in no particular order. The construction crew waited patiently by the truck. The workers smoked, talked about their own business, glancing from time to time at the scene near the house. I stood by my car, watching it all and trying not to think about how I felt. Finally, they were ready. 2 cars. Dexter's old blue Honda Civic with a dented bumper and his parents' gray Ford F-150. They loaded the stuff into the trunks and back seats. Some of the things were just piled up in a heap. Some were sticking out of the open doors. Amanda was the last to come up to me. Her face was red and swollen from crying, her eyes bloodshot. "I'll never forgive you for this," she said quietly, but with such hatred that I involuntarily took a step back. "Never. Do you hear me? You're dead to me." "Fine," I replied, my voice sounding hollow. They drove away. The Honda first, followed by the Ford. The sheriff nodded to me and drove off too. Terrence approached me. "Can we start?" "Yes," I said. "Start." For the next 3 hours, I watched the crew dismantle the porch. The roar of saws cutting through old boards, the creaking of broken wood, the shouts of workers passing tools to each other. I sat in the car with the windows open and watched. I felt devastated. No triumph, no joy, just emptiness inside, as if someone had cut out a part of me and left a hole. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again, and again. After the 5th ring, I realized it wasn't going to stop. I picked up the phone. Amanda was sobbing so loudly and convulsively that at first I couldn't even make out the words. Just crying, sobbing, ragged breathing. "You destroyed us," she finally shouted through her tears. "Do you understand? You destroyed us." "They're going to take Dexter away. They're going to take him away for debts. We only have 2 nights in a motel for $40, and then that's it. Then we'll be on the street. Are you happy? Is that what you wanted?" I was silent for 5 long seconds. I listened to her sobbing. I watched the workers tear the boards off the porch. Then I asked quietly, "Where's the money you've earned over the last 6 months?" Silence. Sudden, deafening. Only sobbing, which gradually subsided. "Amanda," I repeated, "where's the money?" She hung up. I called Amanda back 10 minutes later. She didn't answer. I called again and again. On the 4th try, she answered. "What do you want?" Her voice was hoarse from crying. "I want you to tell me the truth," I replied. "Where's the money, Amanda?" Silence. I could hear her breathing, heavy, ragged. "What money?" she finally said. "Don't play dumb. You lived in my house for 6 months for free. You didn't pay for rent or utilities. You must have had a chance to save some money. Where's the money?" "We didn't have any money," Amanda hissed. "Dexter couldn't work." "Why?" "Because he couldn't." "Amanda," I tried to speak calmly, "explain to me. Why can't a grown man work for 6 months? She was silent for so long that I thought she had hung up again. Then I heard a quiet voice. "Dexter owes money." "How much?" $28,000. I whistled. "To whom?" "Victor Pagliari. He owns a pawn shop in our town. He gives loans against property." I got in the car and closed the door so the workers couldn't hear the conversation. "Tell me everything from the beginning," I said. If you want me to understand anything, tell me the truth." Amanda was silent again. Then she began to speak, quietly, monotonously, as if she were telling someone else's story. 3 years ago, Dexter started playing poker. At first, it was just games at home with friends, small stakes. Then he met some people who played more seriously. He lost $5,000 in one evening. He told me it was temporary, that he would win it back. He went to Pagliari and took out a loan against one of the car washes. And he didn't win it back, I said. No, he lost even more. He went to Pagliari again. He took out another $10,000, then another $13,000. He said he was about to get lucky, that everything was about to turn around. But it didn't. No, when it was time to pay back, we didn't have the money. Pagliari threatened to take the car washes. Then Dexter met Roland Fish, a business coach who promised quick money on cryptocurrency. Dexter invested everything we had left, $40,000. It was our savings, the money from the sale of 2 car washes, everything. And he lost it. Yes, in 2 months the cryptocurrency crashed, Fish disappeared, and the money was gone. The bank took our house. Pagliari started threatening us with court and something worse. Dexter was scared. I watched the workers carrying the debris of the old porch out of the house. I felt the unreality of the situation. And you decided that the best thing to do was to hide in my little house? I asked. What was I supposed to do? Amanda's voice rose again. We had nowhere to go. Get a job, I said simply. You, Dexter, his parents, 4 adults. At least earn something to pay off the debt. Dexter can't work officially, Amanda shouted. You don't understand. Pagliari is tracking him. If he sees any official income, he'll immediately go to court and collect everything through the enforcement service. So he's just hiding? I couldn't believe my ears. He's hiding from his debt and thinks the problem will go away on its own. We thought that after a while, Pagliari would forget, move on to someone else. Amanda. I rubbed my face with my hand. Do you hear how that sounds? You decided to just wait for someone else to solve your problem for you. What was I supposed to do? She was sobbing again. Divorce him and be left with nothing? He's my husband. Get a job, I repeated. On your own. Earn money. Help him pay off his debt. At least do something instead of sitting in someone else's house, drinking someone else's whiskey. Silence. Whiskey? Amanda asked quietly. Everything, I said wearily. I saw the bottles. I saw the new bag. I saw the box from the coffee maker. Amanda, you begged Mom, Aunt Janice, and Marnie for money. They told me. Where did that money go? The silence was long and heavy. Amanda, where did the money go? We had to live on something, she whispered. On whiskey that costs $100 a bottle? On bags? None of your business. It is my business, I said coldly. Because you used my house. Because you lied to my family. Because you... She hung up. I sat in the car and stared at the phone. My hands were shaking. I dialed my mother's number. Olivia? Mom picked up after the second ring. What's wrong? Mom, I want to ask you something. I tried to speak calmly. Have you been giving Amanda money for the last 6 months? Mom was silent for a few seconds. Yes, she finally said quietly. How many times? 4. She called, crying, saying they had nothing to eat, that Dexter was trying to find a job but it wasn't working out, that they needed help for at least a month. How much did you give her? The first time, $500, the second time, $800, the third time, $300, the last time, $400. Olivia, I couldn't refuse her. She's my daughter. I did the math in my head, $2,000. And Aunt Janice gave her money? Yes. She told me. $1,200, I think. And Marnie? Marnie also gave her $600. Amanda told everyone the same thing, that they needed it for food, for urgent needs, that it was only for a month. I counted. $3,800, not counting what other relatives might have given. Mom, I said cautiously, When Marnie saw Amanda on Facebook a month ago, she had a new Coach bag. That's about $400. Mom was silent. And I saw expensive whiskey in the cottage, new appliances. Mom, they weren't spending your money on food. I know, Mom said quietly, and I heard the tears in her voice. I figured it out when she asked for the 4th time, but I couldn't say no. What if they were really in trouble? What if I said no and something happened? Mom, nothing would have happened. I squeezed the phone. They were just using you. They used all of us. Mom cried quietly, pitifully. I can't help her anymore, Olivia, she said through her tears. I have a mortgage myself. Your father is retired. We're barely making ends meet. I thought she was really in trouble, that she really needed help. It's not your fault, Mom. I wiped my own tears. You wanted to help. That's okay. You're a good mother. But I gave her money, and she just... I know, Mom, but it's not your fault. It was her choice, her decision. We talked for another 15 minutes. I reassured her, told her that everything would be fine, that she hadn't done anything wrong. When Mom finally calmed down, I said goodbye and hung up. I sat in the car and looked at the mountains. I remembered a conversation with Marnie a month ago. We met by chance at a coffee shop in town, sat down, talked. Marnie remembered seeing Amanda's photo on Facebook. She looks good, Marnie said at the time. New bag, nice hair. I'm glad things are working out for them. I nodded then, not thinking much of it. Now I understood. That bag was bought with money Amanda had begged from her relatives, with money they gave her for food. I opened my messenger and wrote to Amanda, I'm not going to help you. You had 6 months to decide something. Instead, you used my trust, my home, and my family's money for your own whims. You lied to my mom, my aunt, Marnie. You spent their money on bags and whiskey while they thought you were starving. Don't call me anymore. Don't text me. I'm done with you. I sent it. I blocked her number. I blocked all unknown numbers she could call from. The next 2 weeks flew by at work. I returned to the city, to my apartment, to my projects. I was involved in landscaping a new office center, selecting plants, drawing diagrams, meeting with clients. Work helped me not to think about Amanda. Terrence regularly sent photos from the house. The porch had been dismantled, work had begun on the roof, and the kitchen was being remodeled. Everything was going according to plan. I didn't think about Amanda. I didn't allow myself to. When memories crept into my head about our former closeness, about how we were children, I pushed them away. Amanda had died long ago. The one who remained was a stranger. On Friday evening, September 19th, Marnie called me. Olivia, she said, instead of saying hello. Have you heard the news? What news? I had just come home from work and was taking off my shoes. About Dexter, about Amanda. Something in her voice made me freeze. What happened? Dexter was arrested, Marnie said. The day before yesterday. Victor Polieri filed a lawsuit for fraud and non-payment of debt. Dexter was taken into custody. He's being held in the county jail. No bail was even granted. I slowly sat down on the sofa. What about Amanda? Marnie was silent for a few seconds. Then she said quietly, Olivia, Amanda is gone. No one knows where she is. 3 years had flown by unnoticed. I stood by the panoramic window of my office on the 9th floor and looked out at the city. Outside the window, it was a gray November day, with the first snowflakes in the air. On the table behind me were unfolded plans for the landscaping of the new corporate campus, sketches, and plant samples. Olivia, the client, is waiting in the conference room. Kelsey, my assistant, peeked in the door. I'm coming, I said, grabbing my tablet and heading for another meeting. I became a senior landscape designer at Terrain Concepts a year ago. Now I was leading a team of 5, 3 designers, 1 agronomist, and 1 project coordinator. We worked on large orders, corporate offices, private estates, hotel complexes. The money was good. The work was interesting. Life was stable. I didn't think about Amanda. At first, it was difficult. Every day, I had to consciously push away the memories. Then it became easier. Then I just stopped remembering her. She disappeared from my life as suddenly as she had once disappeared from our parents' lives. My mother told me a year ago, when we were celebrating her birthday, I no longer have a younger daughter. There is only you, Olivia. Only you. She said it calmly, without bitterness. She simply stated a fact. Dad nodded without adding anything. We didn't talk about Amanda anymore. On Friday evening, I drove to the mountain cabin. It was just as I had dreamed it would be. Bright, modern, with a new transparent wood terrace, large windows, and comfortable furniture. A kitchen with marble countertops. A bedroom with a view of the mountains. A small study where I could work remotely. I planned to spend a long weekend there, 3 days alone with myself. Reading, walking along forest paths, enjoying the silence. In the city, there was always noise. Cars, people, phones. Here, there was only the wind in the trees and the distant sound of a mountain stream. On Friday evening, as I sat on the terrace with a book and a mug of hot chocolate, Marnie called. "Olivia," her voice was excited, "you won't believe what I found out." "Hi, Marnie," I smiled. "What happened?" "About Amanda. I found out about Amanda." The smile disappeared from my face. "What did you find out?" I asked cautiously. "Remember I told you that my former colleague, Brandon, moved to Idaho. He works there as a journalist for a local newspaper. Well, he sent me a link to an article, and you won't believe who's in it." I put the book down. "Tell me." "Amanda, she lives in Idaho, and there's a huge scandal surrounding her." Marnie spoke quickly, jumping from topic to topic. I listened, feeling something tighten in my chest. The story was this. After Dexter's arrest, Amanda disappeared. No one knew where she had gone. Dexter's parents returned to their hometown. Dexter was in the county jail awaiting trial. Amanda fled to Idaho to a small town called Cedar Springs. There she got a job as a waitress at a restaurant called By the Fireplace. A month later, she met a regular customer, Barton Craig. Barton was 52 years old. He was a widower. His wife had died of a stroke 4 years earlier. They had no children. Barton owned a regional chain of butcher shops called Craig's Quality Meats. 8 locations across the state, a stable and profitable business. Amanda quickly became close with him. She was young, attractive, and attentive. She told him about her difficult past, about her alcoholic husband who beat her, about her escape, about how she was trying to start a new life. It was all a lie, of course, but Barton believed her. 4 months later, they got married. It was a quiet wedding in a local chapel with only a few of Barton's friends as witnesses. Amanda moved into his house, a large 2-story mansion on the outskirts of Cedar Springs. Before the wedding, Barton asked her to sign a prenuptial agreement. He explained that it was for the sake of his business. If something happened, if they divorced, the business would remain his. Amanda signed without reading it. Or maybe she read it, but thought it would never become relevant. In 3 years, she gave birth to 3 children. First twin boys, Kyle and Cole, then a girl, Mia. Barton was happy. He had always wanted children, but it didn't work out with his first wife. Now, in his 50s, he was finally a father. There was just one problem. Amanda had never officially divorced Dexter. Dexter had served 2 years for fraud and non-payment of debt. He was released last summer. He started looking for her, first through friends, then through social media. Amanda hadn't changed her last name on Facebook, even though all her documents in Idaho listed her as Amanda Roach. However, on Facebook, she was Amanda Roach Craig. Dexter found her profile. He saw photos of Amanda with Barton, with children, near a large house. He realized that she had gotten married without divorcing him. He called Barton. According to Barton's court documents, the conversation went something like this. "Your wife is my wife. We are still married. Want to talk about compensation?" Barton didn't believe him at first. He thought it was some kind of scam. But Dexter sent him a copy of the marriage certificate, dated 9 years ago. The registry entry read, Amanda Roach and Dexter Roach, married on June 23rd. No record of divorce. Barton checked with his lawyer. It turned out that Dexter was telling the truth. Barton was furious. He called Amanda, showed her the documents, and demanded an explanation. She tried to lie, saying that she thought the divorce had been automatic, that she didn't know about the legal details. But Barton wasn't stupid. He realized that she had deliberately concealed her previous marriage. The marriage contract she had signed included a clause about disclosure of all previous marriages and obligations. Amanda had checked no for the question about previous marriages. Now, this was considered fraud and grounds for annulment of the contract in Barton's favor. He filed a lawsuit to have their marriage declared invalid. He also filed a lawsuit for full custody of the 3 children. In the documents, he claimed that Amanda was a fraud, a bigamist, and incapable of raising children due to a lack of funds and moral principles. Amanda hired a lawyer, a cheap lawyer named Curtis Knowles, who specialized more in minor criminal cases. She filed a counterclaim, trying to prove that she really did not know about the need for an official divorce, that Barton had manipulated her into signing the contract, that she was a loving mother and had the right to see her children. The scandal erupted in the local press. Barton was a well-known figure in the region. He sponsored the local baseball team, donated to schools, and his face was on the billboards of his stores. Now his name was in the headlines in a completely different context. Local businessman Barton Craig sues bigamist wife. Scandal in Cedar Springs. Woman hid previous marriage. 3 children at center of court battle between wealthy man and his young wife. Marnie sent me links to the articles as she spoke. I opened them one by one on my tablet. Photos from the court hearings. Amanda, older, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, leaving the courthouse. Barton, a gray-haired man in a suit, his face stony, walks surrounded by lawyers. Quotes from documents. Barton demands full custody, claiming that Amanda has demonstrated patterns of deceptive behavior. Amanda begs to be granted at least partial custody, saying that the children are all she has. I read and felt something strange. Not anger, not satisfaction that Amanda finally got what she deserved. Just fatigue. Enormous, all-consuming fatigue. "Olivia, are you there?" Marnie asked. "Yes," I said. "I'm here." "What do you think about this?" "I don't know," I replied honestly. "I don't know what to think." "She's caused trouble again," Marnie said. "She lied again. She used someone again." "Yes," I agreed. "Don't you feel sorry for her?" I thought about it. Sorry. I felt sorry for the 3 children who were born into the middle of this mess. I felt sorry for Barton, who thought he had found true love. I even felt a little sorry for Dexter, even though he had made all his own choices. But I didn't feel sorry for Amanda. "No," I said. "I don't feel sorry for her." We talked a little more. Then I said goodbye and hung up. I sat on the terrace, looking at the starry sky above the mountains. The air was cold, but I didn't want to go inside. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a message. The sun had not yet risen, and outside the window was the gray darkness of dawn. I picked up the phone from the nightstand. An unknown message. I was supposed to block all unknown numbers after what happened with Amanda, but somehow I forgot. I opened the message. "This is Amanda. Please help me. I have no one. He's taking my children." I stared at the message for a long time. The phone screen glowed in the darkness of the bedroom. Outside the window, it was gradually getting lighter. The gray pre-dawn twilight was turning into morning. "This is Amanda. Please help me. I have no one. He's taking my children." I put the phone on the nightstand, screen down. I got up, threw on a sweater, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. My hands performed the usual movements, pouring water, adding coffee, pressing the button. I looked at the coffee maker and tried not to think about the message. It didn't work. When the coffee was ready, I took a mug and went out onto the terrace. The air was cold and crisp, smelling of pine needles and damp earth. The sun was just rising above the mountains. painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. I sat down in a wicker chair, wrapped myself in the blanket that was always there, and started thinking. Amanda always used people. Always. It wasn't something new, something that appeared after she married Dexter or ran away to Idaho. It had always been in her, ever since she turned 13 and realized she could manipulate people. She used her parents, begging them for money for school, which she dropped out of, then insulting them and cutting them out of her life when they dared to ask for help. She used me. She took my house for 3 months, lived there for 6, and refused to leave until I forced her to. She used Dexter. She married him for money, helped him hide from his creditors, and spent her relatives' money on herself while he was in prison. Now she used Barton, married him, hiding her previous marriage, bore him 3 children thinking it would guarantee her a comfortable life. And every time she was exposed, she played the victim. Every time she found someone to blame. My parents were greedy. I was selfish. Dexter was a loser. Barton was cruel. Never her choices, never her lies. The phone rang on the table in the bedroom. I heard it through the open door. I didn't go to answer it. The ringing stopped. A minute later, another call, then another. I drank my coffee and looked at the mountains. After the 5th call, there was silence. I thought Amanda had given up. Then the phone rang again, a text message. I got up, went to the bedroom, and picked up the phone. A new message from the same unknown number. I know I was a bad sister. I know I don't deserve your help, but now I'm a mother, Olivia. I have 3 children. I need to keep them. My husband, Barton, wants to take them away, not because he loves them, but to get revenge on me for cheating on him. Please, I beg you. I read and reread the message. I looked for something real in it, some genuine remorse, some real understanding of what she had done. I found nothing, only the familiar pattern. I'm bad, but I know, but I don't deserve, but always that but, always excuses. The phone rang in my hand, the same number. I didn't answer. The call went to voicemail. A minute later, I got a notification about a new voicemail. I put the phone on the table and went to finish my coffee on the terrace. I just sat there for an hour. I watched the sun rise higher, the light change colors on the mountains, the forest wake up. I heard birds singing, leaves rustling, the distant sound of water. Then I went back into the house and listened to my voicemail. 5 minutes. Amanda had been talking for 5 minutes. First, crying. Loud, convulsive. Then words, fragmented, barely intelligible. Olivia, I beg you. I know you have every right to hate me. I've done so much wrong to you. But this isn't about me. It's about Kyle, Cole, and Mia. They're 2 and 1 years old. They're little. They don't understand anything. Barton has money for the best lawyers. He hired 3. I only have Curtis, and he does almost nothing. He says there's little chance. The trial is in 3 weeks. Olivier, I'm going to lose them. I'm going to lose my children. Pause. Sniffling. Deep breath. I know I don't deserve your help. I know I used you. I used Mom, Dad, everyone. Oh, I was a terrible person. Maybe I still am. But the kids, they didn't do anything wrong. Barton says I'm a bad mother and that I used him. Maybe that's true. Maybe I did use him. But I love my children, Olivier, but that's not a lie. I really love them. Kyle looks like me. He has the same hair. Cole loves it when I sing to him before bed. Mia just started walking, and I could lose them all. Please. The voicemail cut off. Time limit. I listened to the recording twice. I searched for something that would make me believe that Amanda had really changed, that she really understood what she had done. Again, I found nothing. Even in her story about the children, there was something wrong. She talked about them, but not the way parents who truly love their children talk about them. She talked about them as if they were an argument in a dispute, proof that she deserved sympathy. I thought about those 3 children, 2 two-year-old boys and a 1-year-old girl. They really weren't to blame for anything. They didn't choose to be born into the middle of this horror. But would they be better off with Amanda? With the woman who used their father, who lied to him, who hid her previous marriage? With the woman who always took the easy way out, always used others, always shifted responsibility? Or with Barton, a successful businessman who had wanted children his whole life, who had resources and stability, who loved them? I called Marnie. "Hi," she said, "it's early for you." "Amanda texted me," I said without preamble. "She's asking for help. She says Barton is taking the children." Marnie was silent for a few seconds. "And what are you going to do?" "I don't know. That's why I'm calling you." "Olivia," Marnie sighed, "do what you think is right. But remember, she did this to herself. Every choice she made led to this. It's not your fault, and you don't have to help her." "But the kids..." "The kids will be with a father who has the means to take care of them, the one who wanted them, the one who loves them." "Olivia, do you really think Amanda will be a good mother?" I thought about that question for a long time. I remembered how Amanda talked about the children in her voicemail. I remembered how she always thought only of herself, how she used people, how she lied. "No," I finally said, "I don't think so." "Then why help her get custody?" "I don't know," I rubbed my eyes. "Maybe because she's my sister. Maybe because part of me still remembers that little girl." We talked a little more. Then I said goodbye. I made my decision. I opened my phone. I blocked that unknown number. Then I turned on the settings that blocked all unknown numbers automatically. In the evening, my mom called. "Olivia," she said in a tired voice, "Amanda called me." "I know," I replied. "She called me too." "She asked for money for a lawyer. $10,000. She said it was her only chance to keep the children." "And what did you say?" I said, "No, of course. Where would I get that kind of money from?" My mother fell silent. "Olivia, I said no to my own daughter." "Am I a bad mother?" "No, Mom." I felt my eyes filling with tears. "You're a good mother. You gave her so much. And every time she just took it and disappeared. It's not your fault you can't do it anymore. But the children will be with their father. He has the means to take care of them." Mom cried quietly. "Your father got a call too. He refused as well. He says he can't watch her ruin her life anymore." We talked for another hour. We comforted each other. We convinced each other that we had made the right choice. 2 weeks later, Marnie sent me a link, a GoFundMe campaign. The headline read, "Single mother of 3 fights for her children against a wealthy, abusive husband." I opened the link. There was a photo of Amanda with her 3 children. She was holding 2 boys in her arms, and a little girl was standing at her feet. All 4 were smiling at the camera. The description was long and detailed. "My name is Amanda. I am 29 years old and the mother of 3 beautiful children, Kayla, Cole, and Mia. I'm writing this out of desperation because in 3 weeks the court may take my children away from me forever. I married Barton Craig 3 years ago. He seemed kind, generous, loving. I thought I had found happiness. But after the children were born, everything changed. Barton began to control me. He wouldn't let me see my friends, talk to my family, or even leave the house without his permission. When I disobeyed him, he would yell at me, sometimes push me. I was afraid of him, but I stayed for the sake of the children. Last month, I found the courage to leave. I told him I wanted a divorce. He flew into a rage. He said he would take the children away from me and use his money and connections to prove that I was a bad mother. And now, he is doing just that. He has hired the best lawyers in the state. He filed for full custody. He tells everyone that I'm a fraud, that I used him. I don't have the money for a good lawyer. My lawyer is doing what he can, but he can't compete with Barton's team. The trial is in 3 weeks. If I lose, I will lose my children. They will grow up with a father who uses them as a weapon of revenge against me. Please help me. Any amount helps. I need money for a lawyer, for experts, for anything that will help me keep my children. Thank you for reading my story. Thank you for supporting mothers who are fighting for their children. Not a word about Dexter. Not a word about bigamy. Not a word about her hiding her previous marriage. Complete lies. The campaign was created 5 days ago. It has already raised $8,000. The comments were full of support. Hang in there, Mom, you are strong. These rich people think they can buy everything. Justice will prevail. I am praying for you and your children. I donated $50. That's all I can do. Good luck! I read this while sitting on the porch of the cottage with my laptop on my lap. I didn't feel anger, not indignation, just cold surprise at Amanda's ability to distort reality. Did she really believe what she was writing? Did she know she was lying and not care? I didn't know the answer, and I realized I didn't care. 3 days later, Marnie sent me another link, a comment on that same campaign, long, detailed, with links to court documents. The author, someone under the nickname SCS Resident Join US, laid out the whole story, the previous marriage to Dexter, the fact that there was no divorce, bigamy, court documents confirming that Amanda concealed her previous marriage when signing the prenuptial agreement, the fact that no allegations of domestic violence were ever made. This woman is lying to you, the author wrote. She is not a victim. She is a fraud who deceived her husband, bore him children while concealing that she was still married to another man. Check the facts before giving her money and ask yourself, what will she actually spend it on? The comments under this post quickly changed tone. What? Is this true? I want my money back. I can't believe I believed her. How awful. These people are just taking advantage of our good intentions. The next day, the campaign was gone. GoFundMe had canceled it for violating its rules, lying in the description. All the money raised was frozen, then returned to the donors. I saw this and closed my laptop. I felt empty, not satisfied, not triumphant, just empty. A month later, when I was back at the cottage for the weekend, my mom sent me an email. Dear Olivia, the court hearing took place last week. Barton was granted full custody of all 3 children. Amanda was allowed visitation twice a month under the supervision of a social worker. She has filed an appeal, but her lawyer says there is little chance of success. Dexter tried to get money from Barton by threatening to reveal details of their marriage. Barton filed a blackmail charge against him. Dexter is in trouble with the law again. I don't know what will happen to Amanda next. Part of me wants to help her. I feel guilty for being her mother and not raising her better. But most of me understands that if I intervene again, it won't change anything. She has to learn to live with the consequences of her decisions. Your father says the same thing. We both love her, but we can't help her anymore. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being different. Thank you for making the right choice, even when it was difficult. I love you, Mom. I read the letter twice. Then I replied, Dear Mom, it's not your fault. You're a wonderful mother. You did everything you could. Amanda made her choice, many times. And now she is living with the consequences. You did the right thing by not interfering. I support you. I love you. Olivia. I sent the letter. I closed my laptop. I went out onto the terrace. It was early autumn. The mountains were covered in fog, and the air smelled of rain and fallen leaves. I took a cup of tea, sat down in a chair, and wrapped myself in a blanket. Now, I thought about the whole story. About Amanda, who always chose the easiest path. About myself, who learned to set boundaries. About those 3 children who would now grow up with a father who loved them and was able to take care of them. I thought about how not all stories end with justice. Not all people change. Not everyone gets what they hope for. Sometimes I feel sad for that little girl who used to be my sister, the one who used to crawl under my blanket during thunderstorms, the one who built forts with me, the one who looked at me with adoration and said she wanted to be like me when she grew up. But that girl died a long time ago. She disappeared somewhere around the age of 13, when envy and greed became more important than love, when manipulation became a tool for achieving goals, when lying became the norm, and the Amanda who exists now is someone else, someone I don't know, someone I don't want to know. I made the choice to live my own life, to protect my boundaries, not to let anyone use my kindness as a weakness, not to feel guilty for saying no. I sat on the terrace, looked at the mountains in the misty haze, drank warm tea. I felt no guilt, no triumph, just peace. The deep, quiet peace of a person who knows they made the right choice. And you know what? I'm not ashamed of it.